So our speaker tonight is Dr. Shariff Abdullah. He's a consultant, author, and advocate for mindfulness, inclusivity, and societal transformation. His metavision and mission are simple. We can create a world that works for all beings. Shariff promotes heart-centered inclusivity, compassionate dialogue, and a society based on vision. His vision and work are informed by his inclusive spiritual practices, his growing up with racism and generational poverty, his legal background as a graduate of Boston University School of Law and a successful attorney, and his inclusivity experiences in over 120 distinct cultures spanning 45 countries. He's a consultant and teacher, wisdom teacher, and an author. He's written The Power of One, Authentic Leadership in Turbulent Times, the award-winning Creating a World That Works for All, one of my favorite books, 7 Seeds for a New Society, Practicing Inclusivity, and the Chronicles of the Upheavals, and its sequel, The Chronicles of Awakening, and Birthing the Nation of Gaia.
I want to share something with you. And the thing I'm sharing with you is the notion of a new way of thinking about consciousness. It's floating all around us right now, but for some reason we haven't addressed it directly. So what I want to do is address this directly, and I want to look at what the new elements of this consciousness are. I want to give you examples of it. We don't have to do a whole lot of experimentation around it. We experience it all the time. We misinterpret what it is. We call it different names for what it is, but this is a consciousness that we can make useful, that we can make functional. This is something I will probably talk about more on Tuesday, and I hope I don't say that too many times tonight. But you know that on top of being one of our founding fathers, being one of the most astute politicians in our society, being one of our leading printers, being the guy who created the post office, all of the other things that Benjamin Franklin was, in Europe, he's known primarily as a scientist. And the science that he founded and came very close to barbecuing himself in researching it was electricity. We know about electricity. We've known about it since 600 BC. It took Franklin, though, to make it useful. It took Franklin to make it functional. For hundreds of years, they had these things, these spark generators. And so wealthy people would have them, and you crank it up, and you put your hands on it, and your hair stands down. And you shock each other around the room, and then you put it away, and then you light the gas lamps, and that's how you got to see things. And so what Franklin did was not come up with a theory of electricity. He came up with a theory of electricity. It was absolutely wrong. Everything about it was wrong. He had not one little piece of it right. But what he did was say, wait, this could be useful. And that became he stimulated a lot of other people into being the ones that went forward. Everybody talks about Tesla. Without Franklin, there's no Tesla. Okay, so this is actually one of my favorite pictures because it lets you know that stuff that's between your ears inside that bony sheath is not the beginning and end of the story. What we have to do is start looking at this as the tool of consciousness, our brains and our hearts, and if we're going to be serious about it, all the other guts that are going on inside of us. I'm going to start with the conclusions I'm winding up with at 8:55, so that in case we don't get to those conclusions, you get them right in the beginning. Everything is alive. The entire universe is alive. Every aspect of the universe is alive. Every atom, every molecule is part of our aliveness. All is conscious. All is connected. This cosmic mind is all pervasive. Consciousness is a universal aspect. It is not just for humans. I would say that many humans don't even practice it particularly, but the consciousness is everywhere. And the laws of physics bend. They're not absolute, and they bend toward consciousness. And we'll be talking about that for the rest of our time today. So this is what I call the standard model, or Solon consciousness. Now, where's these words Solon and Holon come from? A guy by the name of Arthur Kessler, back in the 1940s, was doing an awful lot of research on consciousness, and he came up with these terms that I'll define for you in a bit. And in the standard model, in the model that they taught me in school, getting my degree in psychology, cutting up rat brains, and to tell you what psychology is, consciousness is the product of human brains. Now, I put in parentheses some because we know back in the 30s and 40s and 50s and sometimes the 60s and 70s, there were large groups of people that were cut out of this human consciousness. When you start looking at the people who were not allowed to go to college because it would be a waste of time. How many women in the room right now? Okay. How many Black people in the room right now? Okay. How many people who were seen as the not quite like talking animals? They were not considered part of consciousness. You share your reality, you share your worldview by talking to people. And the only way you can do that is by talking to people, because there's no way for the consciousness that's created by your brain that can get out of your brain except by talking or writing something down. In the standard model, the laws of physics are absolute. The speed of light is an absolute barrier. There are 3 dimensions of 3 dimensions in physicality, and 1 in time. There's only 4 forces: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong force, the strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force, and that's it. And you don't have any more. And that is the consciousness that was that what we thought about consciousness when we had all the people who did go to those colleges come up with stuff. What they came up with wasn't bad. What they came up with was just incomplete, and they refused to look at the people and the situations that were saying something else. I think I'm going to give up on this. I may give up on all of these. So this emerging model, what we call Holonic Consciousness, the universe is one, is alive, and it's conscious. Holonic consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe. How many of you know, I can't see on the screen, but how many of you know or have heard of or read about Rupert Sheldrake? Sheldrake crowd here. How many of you read his article on Is the Sun Conscious? Ooh, you'll run right home and after this, you'll run right home and look at that. It's an amazing concept. You know, if the sun is conscious, what's it think about? I can absolutely guarantee you it's not us. Okay, you think about, the sun thinks about us the way that we would think about E. coli bacteria in our gut, which is not at all, until they act up. And then you kill them. So you can see what we have to look forward to here. All beings can share consciousness. Holonic consciousness can create meta-beings. Meta-beings are collections of individual or Solon beings. If you have seen a murmuration, have you seen at least pictures of murmuration? Do you know what a murmuration is? I think that's why people are sitting on their hands. That's when all those birds kind of fly around and swoop together. Yeah, that murmuration, yes.
Now I get it.
Yeah. And we do that. I'm going to show you a human murmuration. The future of life on Earth depends on us becoming colony beings, beings that look after each other's beings, beings that work together for a common goal, a common purpose, beings that are willing to sacrifice themselves for the good of the whole, and beings that are willing to take the good that the society has for themselves. You think about bees, you think about ants, you think about all these other beings, and they become these beings. They become successful when they become colony beings. I didn't know this. I think I've only known this for a couple of years now, that number one, ants predate dinosaurs. They've been around since dinosaurs' time. When they were around at that time, they were solo beings. They went in burrows and made their little ant babies and foraged for themselves in little groups, etc. But they were not colony beings. They were not particularly significant on the planet. Once they became colony beings, they became the single most successful species on our entire planet. There are 30 pounds of ants for every pound of human on the planet. They are on every continent except Antarctica, and Greg has said, you just haven't looked hard enough yet. See them with their little fur coats on. They can they're there, and they can be that successful because they stopped working against each other and they started working for each other. If you think about humans, we don't act like a species. There's no species that's threatening to wipe out a third of another species. There aren't species that amass nuclear weapons, etc. That is a delusion of our consciousness, and we have to end the delusion. Now, I am really seriously wondering what's happening to my computer here. So again, I'm saying that the laws of physics bend toward consciousness, and we're going to talk about the bend. One of the sources of this new theory is the book series that's right back there. Not even kind of positioned it right behind my head so I thought she knew I was going to talk about this. This is a 5-volume set, The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. These are the folks that are talking about what I call the latent powers, the powers that human beings through history have had that we now call old wives' tales, fantasies, folk tales, etc., and we don't take seriously. What we need to do is start taking that stuff seriously. And I took it fairly seriously, seriously enough to go looking for it around the world. And I went on a trip that I called the Sacred Civilization Journey. Some of you in the room may have helped pay for that, in which case, thank you very much. We did a crowdfunding campaign for that. My question was, how did the ancients achieve what they were able to achieve that we can't do right now? How did they build the pyramids? How did they build Göbekli Tepe? How did they build the pyramids actually literally around the world? When I went on this journey, I thought that I was going to find an object. I thought I was going to find, the sacred writing from so-and-so, or the holy object that if you wave it around and you say the right incantation, you get stones in the air. So I started out in going to the Great Pyramid. How many of us have been to the Great Pyramid? Everybody who has their hand down now, within the next year, you should go. Number one, it may wear out. Who knows? Number two, more seriously though, how we access it depends on lots and lots of different things and lots of different countries that you can't rely on anymore. And so I think you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to yourself to. I had seen pictures of the Great Pyramid since I was like 10 years old. When you see it, it's like all bets are off. And if you can get away from the Egyptian guides that are trying to tell you that someone had this ego trip, and in his ego trip created the largest building in history. We've never created anything more massive. We've never, ever, ever done that. We couldn't do it if we wanted to. We slide past those realities, but the bottom line is it's still the most significant freestanding structure ever built. I didn't stop there. Went on to go to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, the new pronunciation for Turkey. And didn't see it because I was sick as a dog. And in a hotel room, thinking I was going to die, and nobody spoke English around me. As soon as I could get online, I asked Google. I put all my symptoms into Google. It gave me my diagnosis of dehydration. Said I need oral rehydration salts into the computer, pushed the button, scared the guy at the front desk out of his mind because it talked Turkish to him, and I got my stuff in time to take my plane right back to Cairo. I also, what I just do? I also went into the Himalayas, and that's where I got my download. If you are familiar with a book called A Story Waiting to Pierce You, yes, it's okay. And I was looking at the Bon religion. The Bon religion was what was there before Buddhism came into the Himalayas. I also went on to Bali, and in all that traveling around, I found and saw the answer. And what this answer was, found my cave. Throughout all of the Himalayas, there was a cave with my name on it. I had an experience with a herd of yaks on the river, and I don't think I'm talking to you about that right now. And then I'll tell you that in, I think, about 20 minutes. And then on the second day, I'm in this cave. I'm near no other human being for a 12-mile radius in any direction. The person who dropped me off at that place said they'll pick me up in 3 days, which I was deeply relying on because nobody else in the world knew I was there. The two people who were in the car as they drove away, only one of them spoke English. And so it was like, I'm really relying on you. And I fasted, and in the second day, some things started happening. One of the things that happened was in this cave, I was at about the 15,000 foot level, which means breathing is really interesting. Went up to all the way up to Cardin La, which is the highest motorable road in the world. Got up there, passed out. It was a really nice passing out. Just kind of, there wasn't like face plant on the ground. It's just kind of, oh, I'll just lie down now. And they pick you up, and they take you into the tea house, and they give you oxygen and some tea, and you pay for it. And then they send you back to higher oxygen at 15,000 feet. But in the cave, at the beginning of the transmission, I saw these golden eyes in the cave. And my first thought was, snow leopard, I'm in a snow leopard's cave. It's come home, a hard day's work, and lunch is already there. And I realized that I was about to get a revelation, and I also did not need the visuals. The visuals can distract you from what you're receiving. So I said, thanks, but no thanks for the visuals, and the eyes disappeared. And then I got the transmission. And the first part of the transition is I was looking for the wrong thing. There is no object. There are no formulas. There's nothing that will trigger these latent powers. That the latent powers are residing latently inside of all humans. It can be awakened at any given time, but it has to be awakened by a collective of humans. Individuals cannot access it. Okay. We have two eyes, and with both of our eyes, we have depth perception. I can tell how far something away is because I'm using both eyes. You can do the same thing with your hearing. You can tell where the sound is coming from when you're using both ears. So trying to access your latent powers is like trying to access your depth perception with just one eye. You can't do it. It doesn't mean that you're wrong or bad or evil, or it just doesn't work that way. Now, I asked, how many people do we need in order to wake this stuff up? And I got absolutely no answer. And I also add, okay, so the other thing is, well, collective consciousness is more than just adding the sum of the parts. It actually creates other organs, other instruments that we use collectively. And it said, my job is that I am to activate these latent powers. That's the thing that I'm doing on the planet. I'm like, okay. And that means to open 3 to 5 awakening centers. Now, to the extent that I understand that, and I may not understand it at all, that means that there needs to be a place or a way of people living or working together that allows them to connect themselves with this holonic consciousness. As I'll show you in a few minutes, we connect with it, and we connect with it automatically. We need to make that connection conscious, and we need to make it happen all the time, and we need to make it happen a lot deeper than we've been making things happen. And I also got 2 books out of it.
From William James in the late 1800s all the way up to today's Federico Pagin and others. Has what you've been downloaded to, which is a very real event, been reflected in any of the other writers and investigators, the physicists, the mathematicians?
No. I'm going to say a blanket no right now. They have, I'm saying, with the exception of Sir Rupert Sheldrake, who he hasn't been knighted yet. He needs to get knighted, okay? He started his scientific career in the exact opposite way of most scientists. He asked the question, he would be a biologist. He says, when do we look at living beings? Then why are we looking at beings that have been in formaldehyde for 10 years? And the answer was, why do you want to do that? That sounds really kinky, you know. And so, but Sheldrake has been asking these questions. We're going to get to some of the questions that he's been asking of how things work, how living beings work. And we believe that we can figure out how living beings work by running them through a maze, cutting out their brain and weighing it. It gives you some information, but it doesn't get nearly what you need to get. Interesting thing is, and I'm saying this with some degree of delicacy because this is an IONS gathering. I've been an IONS member, I think, since you could be a member. I have worked with all of the luminaries that have been that could be illumined. Been to the headquarters and seen the shielded rooms and all the other bells and whistles that allow you to look at emerging processes within Solon consciousness, the consciousness of an individual. Someone said that looking at an individual's behavior is like trying to figure out the behavior of a herd by putting the herd, like looking at one cow and looking at that cow in a white room. You don't get herd behavior. So I am me, Rupert Sheldrake, and then there's a number of other folks. I would call us Sheldrakean. They say good things about children. They say good things about our consciousness, but they still are working from an individual-centric or human-centric model. Humans are not the only beings on the planet. We're not even the smartest beings on the planet. And when you start putting collections of beings together, they can get amazingly smart if we are paying attention. Yeah.
So some of us have been working with the gene keys. That was a download to Richard Rudd, and I forget when it was, several years ago, and he created the whole process of the gene keys. And what he got was that that's where we're going as a species, is to collective consciousness.
We have two choices. We are going to turn into colony beings, or there will be some other species that's able to do reflective consciousness, and they will become the colony beings, and we won't exist anymore. We've reached a terminal point within our humanity, and it's time for us to own that. And the good news is we make it. The not so good news is that not all of us make it. According to the source that I was listening to in that cave, half of humanity is going to die. It's going to do it in the next 20 years, and could be doing it in the next 5 years. That means a major dislocation on our planet. Those of us who can act as colony beings will make it, and those of us who have no idea what I'm talking about or don't want to know what I'm talking about will not. And we have had, if you think about it, and there's a little bit of gray hair in this room, we have had, 30, 40, 50, 60 years to do things differently. And we keep saying, oh yeah, we'll do it later, we'll do it later. We keep acting like when we start talking about humanity changing its consciousness, in our minds, what we mean is that Donald Trump is going to change his consciousness. And the bottom line is, number one, he won't, and number two, he shouldn't. I got some slides here for you. Enough of us are already there in this thinking. So this is my walk to get to my cave on the Doak River in outside of Diskit in the Ladakh region. If I kept walking straight ahead on that road there, it couldn't. But if I kept walking there for like 10 or 15 miles, I'd be in China. And a very narrow trail. Can you see the cursor?
Yeah.
Okay, that where the cursor is right there, that's the path.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
And and that river was ice water like 10 minutes earlier, because it's coming right off the snowmelt from the Himalayas. Try washing up in the morning with that. That was really interesting. Yeah, definitely wake up call or brain freeze call. So at this point, we had a major computer crash in the live portion, and we had to correct that, and it took about 20 minutes to do so. When we picked back up on the in-room conversation, we were talking about the concept of murmurations, what starlings and other birds do when you see them
swooping and turning and flying together as one. And the point that I was making at the time was, just as birds can do this and do it with the same principles and the same outcome, human beings can do this too. And I was giving an example of a human murmuration among skaters.
And so this is what I was talking about in terms of a human murmuration. The video, my video is not jerky like that. I don't know why it is on the screen. I don't know why it just froze. But yeah, these skaters they go around counterclockwise. You can see some of them are really good. They're skating backwards and stuff like that. And some of them are barely standing up. They've got the penguins helping them to stay up. They are not paying attention to the entire, they can't see the entire rink. I can see it because I'm a floor above them. But they respond to the whole thing. They never run into each other. They can skate backwards and not crash. It's not based on trust. It's based on the energy, the holonic energy that's being generated there. Once you know what holonic energy feels like, you can feel it. You can feel the time. It feels like it's here, or it doesn't feel like it's here now, etc. Okay. These are the crows on 14th Avenue. This is non-crow behavior here. This is a light dusting of them. They would always come when we started our meditation. I think that there's about 40 of them here now, and they just stand there. And they'll be there for 5 to 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes, they're all gone. There's not a crow on the entire street. It's just like the movie The Birds, but they don't attack. They're not calling, they're not mating, they're not eating. They are there, and they were doing that for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. Okay, moving on. This is a human brain. There was a researcher that said that this is the most complex organ in the entire universe. Okay. Now, what's that one? Dolphins are not that much bigger than we are. You can see that it's denser. You can see that it's denser. You can see that. So we're supposed to be hot stuff. We have 3 lobes to our brains. Dolphins have 4. We can't even conceive of what they can do. And it's time for us to get over ourselves. That's one of the things of us becoming holonic beings, is not thinking we're going to be on top of anything. Your body is a colony. We talked about this before. Your gut, your mouth. There are 8 billion beings in your mouth right now, just in your mouth. And then you take Listerine and you got less. On your skin, in your vagina, that you've got tens of thousands of species of each of these kinds of beings here. All of us have something like 30 trillion human cells, cells with your DNA pattern. And then you've got 39 trillion microbial cells, 10 to 1 microbe to human cells, meaning you're the 1 and they're the 10. It's time for you to practice being a colony. What do they need to eat? It's not what do you want to eat. What do they need to eat to be happy and healthy, etc. And this is some of the.
So I have a question.
Good time for a question.
So what do you imagine that when imagine that we're a colony now, a human colony, what would our life be like that would be different than what we're doing now?
What question? Since I've never thought of that. Let's just kind of slide over to here and see what's.
I'm sure you don't know, but I thought you might have imagined what it might.
Especially consciousness that is not just for human beings. We can remove the fossil carbon from our atmosphere just by asking it to come down. Just say, no, number one, we're really sorry for putting it up there in the first place. Oops, we made a mistake. Can you please ask the carbon to come down? And it will come down. And it will probably take, a week or two. Albert Einstein said that the consciousness, you can't solve a problem with the consciousness that created it in the first place. Now, every head in the room is nodding because you all heard that. And yet we're all invested in the people who are making the decision. We're investing them using the old consciousness. We need to establish the new consciousness. I was in Bali some years ago. Bali is one of my favorite places. If you haven't been, go right after the pyramids. When I went there, Mount Agnun was erupting. And he said it's going to be a really bad eruption. And they were telling all the Westerners to leave the island, and all the Westerners, oh my God, the volcanoes erupt. And the Balinese weren't doing that. They're putting up these signs saying gentle Agnun, peaceful Agnun. We're part of the family. We're sitting right here. And on the newspaper, they allowed these 6 holy men to go up on the mountain and spend the night. And all the Westerners, I'm talking to the Westerners, and they're like, what's some holy men going to go to talk to a mountain? You can't talk to a volcano. And it was like that. There was lava coming up, smoke coming up. We saw all that stuff. And so 6 guys go up, and they come down, and they said, we talked to the mountain last night, and we asked it not to erupt now. And the mountain said, okay, it's not going to erupt now. They said, it's not going to erupt for the next, I think it said 8 years or 10 years or something like that, in the 30s, 2030s. And the eruption at that time will be twice what it would be this time. So you better be ready for it. No more reprieves. You got 8 whole good years to figure out how you're going to do this, moving people away from the eruption area, getting ready for this. All the geologists and the Westerners, how can you ask a mountain to stop erupting? Okay. The mountain stopped erupting. It just stopped cold. And all the Westerners and all the scientists said, oh, that's just a coincidence. And everything is just a coincidence. So we asked the fossil carbon to come out of the atmosphere, and it does it. When are we going to say, no, it's not a coincidence? We can reduce and eliminate violence. How many of you know that study that was done by the Maharishi folks? They went to Washington, D.C. During one of in a lot of cities, violence is a regular feature. And they said they were going to reduce the number of murders in Washington, D.C. in the summer. And the police chief said the only thing that's going to reduce the number of murders in Washington, D.C. is a snowstorm. And they reduced it by, 50% or something like that. My question was, why'd they stop?
Mm-hmm.
They stopped because the people in Washington, D.C. were lab rats. They were not, when I talk about holonic consciousness, I'm talking more we than we. I mean, it's like all of us together. If you may know that ants, when they are threatened, like when there's a flood, the ants will form a ball, queen on the inside, eggs on the inside, nursery ants on the inside. All the other ants make a circle, make a ball. They link their arms and legs, and the ones on the bottom of the ball die. They're dead, but they still keep themselves linked. They make a raft that floats to their new location. The ones that are still alive will go into their burrow and take the eggs and take the queen and take the nursery ants, etc. And they take all the bodies and they compost them down, and that becomes their food. So all of them make it through one way or another. So we can reduce and eliminate violence, but not as lab rats. We can keep doing it. We can become peaceful. We have to do more than say, "Oh yes, I want to be peaceful," or we'll hold hands and sing kumbaya. We need to do something more definite than that, and part of that is the catalyst meditation that we've been doing. Ending suicide, which is at epidemic levels all around the world. In every class of people, you've got people killing themselves, doing it fast and doing it slow. We can get beyond that. We can spread the consciousness of peace and oneness the way that we spread the consciousness of separation. And that this piece of dirt that I'm sitting on is different in nature than the piece of dirt that you're sitting on, and therefore I have to kill you. Therefore, I can deny you permission to come to my piece of dirt. And I hope that sounds as meaningless as it seems. Reducing and eliminating drugs and alcohol. I came across a statement, and I wish I knew who said it. It's so cool. I'm tempted to steal it. And the statement is, drugs and alcohol are the mystical experiences of the ignorant. And when I first heard that, my first thought was, that's exactly what I was looking for when I was alcoholic and when I was drug addicted. I was looking for that, and I didn't know where to look. Now that I do, I don't, drugs and alcohol are like kind of, like it's not even an issue, and to stop feeding our shadows, to feed our light. And how many of you know about the Bhutan's gross happiness index. They measure the health of their society by the health of how happy it is. What if we did that? The number of people who are insanely wealthy and yet are empty inside. And you can see them on the news every single day. You watch the news, which I would highly recommend that you don't.
I was wondering if we would have the opportunity to do the meditation.
Oh,
You could give us a taste of it. We have 15 minutes.
I give you a taste. I'll give you a taste. Okay.
Give us the idea.
I'm going to talk about murdering shrimp. No, I'm not going to murder shrimp.
Does everybody want to do the meditation? Want to try it?
What happens about psychopaths, the psychopaths and the sociopaths? Do they just die off in the 5 to 8 years?
Oh yeah, that's they'll all start singing Kumbaya with us. No, the reality is, so many of those people, many people are loose, are not functioning because we've lost the centerpiece of our society. Once we get back into our Holonic consciousness, the incidence of that kind of mental and spiritual illness, I call it spiritual illness, will go down because folks will feel the center of their ground coming back.
I guess I was talking specifically about psychopaths because their brains are different. They're born that way. They're going to.
This is good. These are such good questions.
He's asking about psychopaths.
So at this point in the recording, my computer died completely. And so we didn't get the tail end of the response to the question about what would Holonic Consciousness do with regard to psychopaths, people who are sociopaths, people whose brain chemistry is just so different from normal that they act out in strange ways. My response, the second response is, the first response is, as our collective consciousness changes, as the Holonic consciousness changes, it will create a new magnetic force for us in our society that will help to help people to gravitate toward a new center of society. The questioner went on, though, to ask, how do you handle the fact that the structure, the brain chemistry of a person who is a sociopath is different? I mean, they've got different brains. And my response was another piece of research that was done. This one was done with a group that is not psychopaths, a group of nuns who were in a convent. And this was a convent in New York City, and the convent was getting older to the point that it was not growing, and they were looking toward the end of their convent as they were beginning to pass on. And as a convent, they agreed to do a long-term study on brain health, and they all of the nuns agreed that they would be regularly tested, and that they would, when they passed on, that they would donate their brains to be researched. specifically for Alzheimer's. They continued about their lives, and they led very rich, rewarding spiritual lives with each other. They worked really hard. They had regular practices, regular schedules of singing and visiting the sick and all the other things that nuns do. And as they began to die, they started looking at their brains. And these very active, very alert, very with it women had brains that were very seriously affected by Alzheimer's, to the point that they should not have been able to do the things that they were doing. They did them not because their brains were able to do that, but they did those activities because their brains and their hearts were connected with each other. And the thing that powered them to be able to do all the things they did up until the time of their death was the holonic quality of their brains, of their being, not just what was going on in their brains. So this opens up whole new areas on how we can interact with each other and how we can see some of the things that we think of as limitations. We can see them differently once we can get away from looking at the brain as be all and end all and recognize that through Holonic consciousness, everybody in that convent and beyond were supporting and connecting with each other. The possibilities of this are truly staggering, and I'm looking forward to doing that work with everyone else and seeing where we go with that. Thank you for listening to this. Oh, by the way, we did work with the Catalyst meditation. People really enjoyed it. I didn't go on the recording. So what I'm going to do is give you at the end of this a link for you to experience the Catalyst meditation on your own, what goes into it. That should follow what I'm saying right now. So thank you.